Hello, this is part of a series of interviews with people who are helping to build a new economy. And today I'm talking with Micky Metts of Agaric in the US. Hi, Micky.
Greetings.
Where are you in the States?
I'm in Boston, Massachusetts right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
And can you tell us a bit about Agaric and what you do?
Oh, that, yes. Agaric is a cooperative. There are 6 of us who are owners and workers. Excuse me, I'm recovering from a cough. And we do the work and we own the company. We mostly work with Drupal. We met as members of the Drupal community, most of us. And it's an eclectic mix of different skills that we have that are overlapping skills. Some are deep back-end developers. There's project management and some outreach. And I am on the end that mostly does the outreach and some client management, finding leads, people that would need Agaric to build what they love. And we also are part of a few different movements. As Agaric, we are members of May 1st, which is a web host, but they're a member-driven web host. And actually, I'm a member of their leadership committee. And we are right now transitioning into a cooperative, which is pretty enormous because we're based in Boston, in New York, and in Mexico City. So we have 2 companies in May 1st that are kind of merged, and we're working through transitioning into a cooperative. As I said, and it's just very exciting.
So you build websites for people?
Yes, we do. We basically look for people, we look for clients that have synergy with and alignments with our mission and goals of ensuring that people have the most freedom to do what they need to do and be autonomous. And we work with free software. So we advise people on how they could reach their goals and their website using free software. And Drupal is free software also.
And so why do you favor free software and cooperatives?
Well, I don't just favor it in cooperatives. I favor it for every human being that wishes to have their freedom protected and their privacy and autonomy. It's a way to free software, as Richard Stallman says, and Richard Stallman started the free software movement and the Free Software Foundation, and free software equals a free society. When you can see how your software is running and what it is doing, you are free, and you are free to modify it, edit it, sell it, change it, do whatever you would like with it. That is a basis of a great sharing society.
Yeah. I mean, I'm anybody who knows me will tell you I'm not a techie, but I'm on Linux. I did it myself.
Awesome.
I use DuckDuckGo instead of Google. I use GIMP. I use LibreOffice, Lumio.
Excellent.
WordPress, websites and WordPress. So if I can do it, anyone can. So why hasn't free open source software taken over the world?
Well, I think a lot of it is the bad connotations it has, that corporate software, proprietary software vendors have lent a hand to building this big mystique that Linux is difficult, it's for geeks, it's you won't understand it, it's so old-fashioned, and you have to be a programmer to use it. Every few weeks, I'm sitting down with someone, I'm using my computer, and they look over at it and they go, "What are you using?" And I say, "Oh, I'm using Linux." And they go, "Oh, it looks like Windows. And I thought you didn't like Windows." And I'm like, "Well, it's not that much different. There's no big, steep learning curve."
Yeah, there's not at all. I mean, there is if you want to install it yourself, but I had somebody to help me, and we did it step by step, and it was easy enough. But once you've installed it, I mean, I've been doing it for 2 years now. I have not one single problem, not one single problem.
Not one, I know. It's hard to convey that to people who have been hoodwinked by the people that say, "Oh, it's difficult. It's for geeks. You won't get it. It's ugly."
So,
well, the ugly baby has survived, and it is beautiful.
And I don't need any antivirus. I don't need any antivirus software.
No.
It just doesn't get through to Linux. I don't have any. I haven't had any antivirus stuff for 2 years.
No, I've never been attacked or had to use an antivirus thing.
No. So how do we remove these barriers then? How do we get it spread? Because I tell everybody I come across, and you know, they just, I think most people just can't be bothered to sort of make the transition once it's inertia.
Right. Well, how do we do that? Well, I do it by traveling around and speaking to people. I speak to groups. I try to do lightning talks at meetups, at events. I invade other groups and give a small presentation on how free software is at the foundation of your personal freedom. It's not just a thing about Edward Snowden and, you know, et cetera, the world. And you do matter, because your privacy and your freedom are important.
I mean, obviously, there's only one of you, unfortunately. Yes. But how do we, I don't know, how do we spread the word? How do we get it out there? How do we get people changing their behaviors?
Well, I do send links around to people in the social groups I belong to. I'm on Mastodon, which, in the instance social.coop. Mastodon, for those who don't know, it's similar to Twitter, but we own the platform. I pay $3 a month, and I'm an owner of social.coop on Mastodon.
That might be a barrier for a lot of people, I suppose, if they don't want to pay.
Yeah, well, even $1 a month is, I think, preferable to being targeted and having all of my information run through a sieve and then, splattered out everywhere. I think it's, people don't really feel the pressure yet to become private citizens.
Yeah.
And I don't think a lot of people don't truly understand the underlying meaning of freedom. They look at their Windows or Mac and say, I'm free to do anything I want, but then they really don't have the deep understanding of the back doors in the software. And just one of the ways I'd like try to explain it to people is, if you're investing in this thing like a Mac or something that costs over $1,000, you're pumping up an industry that is barring entry to a lot of people who do not have this type of money to spend on a machine. Although the free software movement is totally not about money. It's not about the cost of things. Even though it's called free software, you can sell it. So it's about your personal freedom. And I do everything I can to get someone to understand what their personal freedom is. We haven't had it in so long, people don't understand. They've just been used to following what the dictator, the Microsoft or the Apple or whatever, tells them to do. You don't run your computer. Your computer kind of runs you. It lets you know what you can do. Have you ever gotten a pop-up that says, I'm sorry, you can't do that, or that action is not allowed, or just a no or a shutdown? Well, that's not fair. We want you to be in control.
How difficult is social.coop for a non-techie? I've heard it can be a bit tricky. Is that true?
No, it's just like Twitter. It's the layout is totally like Twitter. You just post a message, and there it is.
And you say you send out links. Could you send me those links, and I'll put them below the video so people can see?
I definitely will. I have a link to a resources page.
Okay, great.
To help people it's from a keynote I did at MIT for the Free Software Foundation's yearly event, Libre Planet, an international event they do once a year. And after I spoke, I posted a link to our resources to help you get free. Lots of free software and ways to do it. Once you look, it really isn't difficult. I know to people it seems like a mountain to climb. I'm already settled in here with Windows. Why do I need to do that?
Yeah.
Well, there's so many reasons.
Yeah. Are they teaching free open source software in schools?
Well, that is a good question. In public schools, some of them have been open to using free software and teaching people about it. There's a school in Pennsylvania called Penn Manor that has been running for about 15 years, totally on free software. And one of the best things about free software is you can involve the students in the running of the school. They can manage some of the software themselves and add to it. They can build onto it, like say it doesn't have a checkbox to say if you're in an after-school activity, you could add that to the free software. You don't have to write to a corporation and wait for them to add this checkbox.
I guess I don't know whether they teach free open source software in schools in the UK, but I guess it could be down to parents, couldn't it? Concerned parents might sort of contact the school and say, why are you advertising sort of corporate software in your school? Why don't you teach the kids about free software?
Well, Dave, we would hope in a perfect world it would be like that, but actually in Needham, Massachusetts, the school system was requiring that parents buy an iPad for $500 or more for their kids.
Oh no!
And yes, oh no, they're getting into the schools like it's a hive.
Yeah,
it's seriously off the rails. So they were charging parents $500, and we wrote to the op-ed section in the Needham newspaper about this, like a nice letter about why you shouldn't be doing this and why you should be supporting free software. One of the parents wrote back, and it was just horrifying, Dave. He said, I don't think my child needs to be looking at free software. Apple knows what's good for them.
Oh.
So this is like a mind takeover game.
Wow.
That's scary, isn't it? That's so Orwellian, I couldn't believe it. I had to read it like 3 times. My child doesn't need to learn about free software and look inside of a computer. Apple knows what's good for him.
And did
that poor child?
Did that parent work for Apple by any chance?
I don't know. Maybe. That's a good question. But that was just so sad and demoralizing. That was just awful.
Micky, what's the difference between free software and open source software?
Well, they're basically the same in code. The same code is free software and it's open source. The difference is political. When the Free Software Foundation and movement started, it is all about the community and sharing and being able to freely share our software, our music, our art, etc. And the open source movement was started in retaliation to that, as if they did not want any ethics attached to the software. So big business adopted the term open source because they don't want any ethics attached, obviously. And it became like a war that, and most people do not know the underlying principles of this war, software war, if it could be called that it's just a political thing. We want software to be a community endeavor. We want people to be involved in what software they're using if they want to. We want people to be able to have a chance to and not have a closed world. So it's a politics thing where someone can say, nah, 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 I don't care about your ethics. The software works perfectly. So the word open source words mean the software has to work well and do as it's, prescribed to function.
So should we be using the term free software rather than open source software?
Yes, we should. We should. It's a difficult step, I know, for people because the open source corporations and community had a lot of money to just spread the term around and do all kinds of things with it while obfuscating the ethics behind it.
So we use the term free and open source software. Is that sort of acceptable, or do you think we should just dump the open source bit?
I think we should dump the open source, but I think we really need to come up with a better term that helps people understand it better.
Because free, people might just think free as in free beer rather than in free.
Yes, people think about free beer, and that's just not good.
Yeah.
That's not relative to, oh, it's good, but it's not relative to this.
Yeah, free beer is good. Yeah. But okay, so really we could do with a new term. So
yes.
So you also operate in the cooperative world. I found that in the cooperative, we're a co-op. I talk with lots of people in the co-op world. There's not that much emphasis in the UK on using free software. Why is that, and why do you think it's important to make a connection between the two?
I'm not sure if I really understand that. Can you rephrase that?
So I found that a lot of cooperatives don't use free software.
Okay.
And they don't find it that important, and I'm quite surprised by that. I would have thought that it would have been the go-to thing for co-ops.
Yeah, I think a lot of times people have to go for what works in the situation when they're working on a client's assets or whatever. And sometimes they don't have time to learn the free software, which might be a little bit different than what they've been using. Also, there is still a resistance to the culture, people not understanding what the free software culture means. There's not like a defining anthem, I guess, that everyone gathers under that is known more widely to cooperatives. A lot of people in cooperatives are not super techies and may not know about free software. And once they do, they realize, well, I've got everything set up on Google and all of, the Gmail, etc.
Yeah.
It would be a big endeavor to dig this out and replant with free software. So we try to get them at the beginning. We also, Agaric has published a blog listing all of the free softwares that we use in our daily work.
Could you send me that as well?
Yes, I will definitely put a link to that in the, can I put it in the chat here?
Yeah.
Okay, great. I'll put a link to that in the chat. And I've gotten a lot of great emails from people who find it extremely helpful to, just be able to go through a list. It's like a reference blog.
Fantastic.
More than
I guess we need to reach some sort of critical mass, don't we, before it's just useful for everybody, and it's maybe people could use both for a while, and then just I'd like to see the whole of society move towards free software.
That would just be a wonderful thing. We are doing our best to get the information out to hubs. I mean, people who have networks, people who have repair shops, people that sell computers. We're trying to get them to load GNU Linux on it when they sell it instead of loading Windows.
Yeah.
And even that is a tough space.
It's a really tough space. I mean, I've bought sort of computers and said that you know, I don't just want to buy a computer with Windows on, because then I'm giving Microsoft some money, and then I have to
Right.
take it off and reinstall Linux. I don't want to do that. I want to buy a computer which is blank or with Linux, so I don't
Right.
have to give Microsoft any money at all.
Yeah, you shouldn't have to. This is just really tragic
Mm.
that people fall into this pit. And it's also a kind of like a club when people say, I'm an Apple person. What does that mean?
Yeah,
That has a strange connotation.
yeah,
It's like you will do anything they tell you to do, or just anything that they want you to buy. You will be buying this. You know that
yeah,
I don't think that's right.
yeah. Is there an alternative to Google Docs?
Yes, there is, and it's called Nextcloud.
Nextcloud. Now, if you're
Next,
using Nextcloud, can you communicate with people who are, you know, in the Google world?
well, yes, it's people don't have to have Nextcloud for you to send them documents or give them access to a folder on your Nextcloud. You can share files. You can collaboratively edit presentations. Like it doesn't use PowerPoint, it uses LibreOffice,
Yeah,
which is a replacement for Microsoft Office.
yeah, I use that
And
as well. Yeah, and it's very simple, isn't it?
it's incredibly simple. It's beautiful and very elegant.
So
And
that does sort of dovetail with Microsoft products. You can open any Microsoft product in LibreOffice, which is essential, isn't it? Really, I suppose.
yes,
Yeah,
and you can collaborate and work on presentations together, slideshows, documents. It has a calendar. It has a talk feature that's similar to a Zoom, what we're using now.
and is there information about Nextcloud in the blog?
Yes, there is.
Fantastic. I'm going to look at that.
There is. There's a whole section. And I find joy in showing these tools to people that are willing to migrate and willing to take a look at it, because they are so relieved. And after they see it, they're like, oh, wow, this isn't what I thought it would be. I thought it would be all like old fashioned looking, like 1997 or something.
Yeah.
And I would have to learn all these cryptic commands. It's like, no, I'm so sorry people have been misled.
Yeah. Here's another problem. If people look at your blog, obviously, as time goes on, that's going to become out of date. How can people keep up to speed? You know, the latest updates, the latest upgrades, the latest products.
Oh, well, the blog is a living blog and will be updated.
So you constantly update it.
Yes,
Fantastic.
yes.